Hey, friends. Welcome back to One Sip, One Tip. Last week, we talked about setting the tone, not the pace. And today, I kind of want to just stay right there. Because once you decide the tone, the next question naturally becomes, what do I actually build from here? I want to start personally because this lesson wasn't something I learned quickly or easily. There was a season in my life where my default yes came way too fast. I joined, I jumped in, I committed before I prayed. And I told myself it was because I cared, because I wanted to help, because I wanted to be faithful. But slowly, without realizing it, I became overcommitted and underpresent. Life started to feel chaotic instead of clear. I was doing a lot, but nothing felt grounded. I wasn't operating from intention anymore. I was operating on autopilot. And that's how I knew something had to change. Thankfully, and honestly, only by God's grace, that was a season when COVID hit and everything forced a slowdown. What felt disruptive at first ended up being a gift. I was made to stop long enough to notice what I had been ignoring. And one of the biggest lessons that came from that season was this: not every good opportunity deserves my best yes. So here's today's one sip, one tip. Build what you can sustain. For me, sustainability didn't mean doing less because I was tired. It meant doing what aligned with what mattered most. I had to learn that always being available wasn't the same thing as being faithful, especially in real estate where it feels like you're always on. There's always one more text, one more call, one more thing that just needs a quick response. And I'm still learning this, but I've had to be intentional about setting a Sabbath for myself, about protecting space, about remembering that rest isn't a reward, it's a rhythm God designed. Sustainable for me looks like a slower pace of trial and error. Finding what actually fits, letting things become more rhythm instead of pressure. And that's important because what we force rarely lasts. In the past, I could always tell when something stopped being sustainable for me. My excitement would fade and my joy would quietly leave with it. And for a long time, I ignored that. The Lord was gently showing me it was time for a change, but I was stubborn. I didn't want to disappoint anyone. I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to admit the season was shifting. But now, I've walked that path enough times to recognize the signs. I can sense when change is coming. I can feel when it's time to let someone else step into a role and receive the blessing. Because it no longer feels like a blessing for me to carry. And that realization didn't make me sad. It made me free. I want to say this clearly, especially for anyone listening who feels guilty for wanting to slow down. Guilt is not of the Lord. He wants us free. If a slowdown is something you've prayed for, why would you assume it's a bad thing when it arrives? What if the season is changing? What if that nudge you're feeling isn't failure, but invitation? And the harder question might be this: if God is prompting a shift, are you willing to say yes to that? There's a phrase I come back to often when I'm tempted to overcomplicate God's will. We treat the will of God like a tightrope, when it's actually a green pasture. Tightropes require fear, perfection, and constant tension. Green pastures invite trust, rest, and movement at a natural pace. God is not wanting for you to mess up your life by choosing the wrong habit, the wrong rhythm, the wrong pace. He's walking with you, guiding you, and adjusting as you go. So as you think about what you're building this year, I want to invite you into a reflection, not pressure. What have I been forcing that no longer fits this season? Where has my joy quietly faded? And what might that be telling me? What does sustainability actually look like in my real life, not my ideal one? What rhythm could I return to even on my hardest days? Am I willing to release something to someone else that can step into it so I can stay grounded? You don't need to build everything at once. You don't need to prove your devotion by exhaustion. And you don't need to carry what God is asking you to release. Build what you can sustain. Build what feels like grace. And build what allows you to stay present, clear, and faithful, not frantic. I'll leave you with this gentle reminder. God is far more interested in your freedom than your output. Let the year be shaped by trust, not tension.